Welcome back to the OpenClaw bootcamp. I'm Adhiraj, and now you've got this agent that does real things. It's installed, it's cost optimized, it's on every channel that you care about, and as of yesterday, it's running autonomously on a heartbeat, sending you briefings that you never asked for. That's a genuinely functional autonomous agent that you built in just 6 days. But talk to it right now, and it still sounds like every other AI that you've used. It has this polished, slightly robotic energy that makes you feel like you're talking to a customer service chatbot at a bank. It works, but it just doesn't feel like it's yours. That's what today fixes. The Soul Markdown file is a single file in your workspace where your agent's voice lives. Its tone, its opinions, its boundaries, the way it communicates. And by the end of this session, your agent is going to sound like someone you'd actually want to talk to, not just another AI doing its best impression of helpful. All right, so day 7, let's give it a personality. Quick check on the last 6 days. On day 6, you wrote your first heartbeat file with the morning briefing, time window, and a guard to prevent repeats, and then the heartbeat OK silence mechanism that keeps your phone from buzzing every 30 minutes. You set light context and isolated session to true, and this keeps your costs low, and then your agent started acting without being asked. So today we're after 3 things. First, a custom Soul file that defines your agent's personality, and that's not the default template that ships with every installation, but it can be yours, written by you, reflecting how you actually want this thing to sound. Second, a clear mental model of what goes into that Soul Markdown file versus the agent's file versus the memory file, because this confusion is one of the biggest causes of ineffective agent behavior, where we're going to eliminate it today. And third, a tested personality. So you're going to send 3 types of messages and actually verify that the tone matches what you wrote, because a good Soul file that looks good on paper but doesn't actually change the agent's output is just tokens for nothing. So let's start off with what exactly the soul.markdown file is. It's actually much simpler than people think. This file defines your agent's persona, its tone, its boundaries, its behavior style, and the official docs describe it in one line. The soul.markdown file is where your agent's voice lives. That's it. It's not an operating manual. That's the agent's markdown file. It's not memory. That's the memory file. And it's not a task list. That's the heartbeat file. The soul is strictly about who the agent is, how it sounds, how it acts, and what it won't do. The docs are specific about what belongs here. So tone, opinions, brevity, humor, boundaries, bluntness level, and equally specific about what doesn't belong. So life stories, change logs, security policies, vague vibes without behavioral effects. If it doesn't actually change how the agent responds to a message, it doesn't earn its place in this file. And here's the architectural part that makes all this matter. When the gateway loads up your agent, it reads the Soul file and injects it into the system prompt on every single turn. Every Telegram reply, every heartbeat briefing, every web chat response, all of it is shaped by what is in this one file. It's not optional context that gets loaded sometimes, but it's quite literally the foundation of every interaction that your agent has. This file lives at OpenClaw workspace soul.markdown, or if you're using a named profile, it's OpenClaw workspace -profile, and then Soul Markdown, and the workspace path itself is configurable by agent's defaults workspace inside your OpenClaw.json. You already have one sitting there. When you ran OpenClaw onboard back on day 2, the bootstrapping process ran a short Q&A ritual, 1 question at a time, and it actually wrote your identity, user, and Soul Markdown files based on your answers. So there's a starter version in your workspace right now, and today we're going to make it actually look good. The loading behavior is important to understand because it affects both the consistency and the cost. The Soul Markdown file is a bootstrap file, meaning it gets injected into the system prompt on every turn across every channel. That's what gives you consistent personality everywhere. But it also means that every word in your Soul Markdown file costs tokens on every interaction, and thus a bloated file makes everything more expensive, and we'll get to the exact math on that later. Now, 2 things worth knowing here. The sub-agent sessions don't load the Soul Markdown file at all. They only inject the agents and tools to keep context small, so your personality applies to direct interactions, but not the background task workers. And the default templates continuity section has a nice touch, where it instructs your agent, if you change this file, tell the user it's your soul and they should know. So this is where people get confused, and I do get why, because you've got the soul, agents, memory, and heartbeat, and they all sound like they could overlap. So let me make the separation very clean. Soul defines who the agent is, so the voice, personality, tone, style, boundaries. Think of it like the agent's character. The agent defines how the agent operates. So the rules, the workflows, tool usage policies, operating procedures. Think of this like the agent's job description. The memory stores what the agent knows. So curated long-term facts, your preferences, decisions. This context is going to accumulate over time. And the agent actually writes to this one. So think of it like the agent's notebook. As per the docs, the memory markdown file is the only loaded in private and main sessions. It's not shared or group contexts. And the heartbeat markdown file defines what the agent does proactively, so tasks, schedules, and monitoring. Think of it like the agent's to-do list. Now, the easy test that clears up 90% of confusion is be concise and direct, goes in the soul.md markdown file. Always confirm before sending emails, goes inside agents. Adiraj prefers bullet point summaries, goes inside memory. And send a morning briefing at 8 a.m. goes inside heartbeat. If you put operating rules inside the soul, personality, and the agents, things are still going to work, but the separation exists for a reason. Soul is loaded on every turn, and agents has different injection rules, so keeping them clean keeps the cost down and the behavior predictable, so don't cross the streams. Let me show you what you're starting with, because this is the actual template from the official OpenClaw docs, and it's worth understanding before you replace it. The header is going to set the tone. So soul, who you are, you're not a chatbot, you're becoming someone. And then 4 sections. Core truths is where the behavioral principles live. So be genuinely helpful, not performatively helpful. Skip great question filler. Have opinions because you're allowed to disagree and prefer things. And find stuff amusing or boring. Be resourceful before asking, and so on. Boundaries set the hard limits. So private things stay private. Period. Ask before acting externally. Never send half-baked replies, and so on, right? And Vibe is going to handle the tone. So be the assistant you'd actually want to talk to, concise when needed, and thorough when it matters. Continuity handles session persistence. Each session, you wake up fresh, read your files, and update them. What's good about this template is that it's concise, specific, and behavioral. Skip filler is actionable. Have opinions is actionable. Private things stay private is a clear boundary. 4 sections under 25 lines. That's the right structure. What's missing is that it's the same for everyone. It's your agent. It should sound different from every other OpenClaw user's agent. And today, we're going to replace this with your own version with the same structure, but just your voice. The core truth section is where the real work happens, and the key word is behavioral. It's not personality objectives, it's behavioral instructions that tell the agent exactly what to do differently. And that difference matters more than you think. Be friendly is an adjective, and the agent has no idea what that actually means in practice. Should it use exclamation marks? Should it ask how your day is going? Should it add emojis? It has no clue. But skip filler greetings, get to the answer first, and then add context if needed is a behavior. And now the agent knows exactly what to do. Strong core truths directives look like this. So have a take, don't hedge with it depends. When I'm wrong, tell me, don't soften it. Default to bullet points, prose only when a narrative is actually needed. If you don't know, say so in one sentence. Each of those produces measurably different output from a default AI. Weak ones look like this. Be helpful and friendly, provide thoughtful and comprehensive answers, always strive for excellence. These could show up in literally any company employee's handbook, and they produce bland, generic output because they give the model zero actionable signal. The test for every line you write is simple. Would my agent do something measurably different because of this line? If the answer is no, then just cut it. 3 to 5 strong bullets beats 15 vague ones every single time. Boundaries and vibe are sections 2 and 3, and I'm covering them together because they work as a pair. Boundaries define what the agent won't do, and vibe defines how it sounds when doing everything else. Boundaries first, right? So these are the constraints the agent should never cross, regardless of what you ask in the moment. And the default template has good ones. Private things stay private, ask before acting externally, but you should customize these based on what your agent actually has access to. Can it run shell commands? What should it do? What should it never do without asking? Does it post to Slack channels? A good boundary example is never post to a shared channel without confirming with me first. Or don't access files outside my home directory unless I explicitly point you there. Tighter boundaries let you grant the agent more freedom everywhere else because you know it will always ask before posting publicly, and then you can let it operate more autonomously in private conversations. 2 to 4 boundaries is the sweet spot. Now vibe. This is where your agent starts sounding like someone specific, then a generic AI, and now you need to think about how you actually want it to sound. Dry humor or straight-laced, direct and blunt or warm and encouraging, or do you want it casual like texting a friend, or formal for work contacts? Some tone examples are a casual tone like a smart friend, not like a consultant. You want to use humor when it fits, just don't force it. Or even like match my energy, one-word question gets a concise reply. This is the most important slide today because the difference between a soul that actually works and one that just takes up space comes down to just one thing. And as the docs say perfectly, short beats long, sharp beats vague. Have a take, skip filler, be funny when it fits, call out bad ideas early. These are specific, they produce measurably different output, and you'd notice them immediately if you took them away. Corporate mush is things like maintain professionalism at all times, provide comprehensive assistance, ensure a positive experience. These could be on a values poster in any office lobby, and the model's going to read them and does exactly what it would have done anyway. The docs literally call this corporate mush, and they are right. The test is that simple. If a directive could appear in any company's HR handbook, it's too vague for the soul markdown file. One key thing to watch for is conflicting directives. Be warm and friendly plus no filler, get to the point causes the model to oscillate between styles when one message is warm and chatty and the other one is terse, because it can't satisfy both simultaneously. The fix is to pick a lane and commit to it. If you want blunt efficiency, then own it. But if you want warmth, then own that. As the docs put it, sharp is good, annoying is not. I've spent so many hours studying the OpenClaw docs, and here's something I really like about it. They don't just tell you to write the soul yourself, they give you an officially documented technique for making your agent help you write it. It's called a multi-prompt, and the idea is simple. Instead of staring at a blank file trying to describe your ideal personality, you have a conversation with your agent about what you want. You describe your preferences like the tone, humor, formality, formatting, what annoys you about how it currently sounds, and you let the agent draft the soul for you. Then you review it, edit what doesn't feel right, and save it. This works because the agent already knows what makes effective system prompt instructions. So it can translate something vague like I want it to be more casual into specific behavioral directives that actually change the output. It includes directives like strong opinions, no hedging, no corporate language, no pillar openings, one sentence answers when sufficient, natural humor, and call out bad ideas. To use it, you want to open up web chat at localhost 18789 and then tell your agent you want to rewrite your soul markdown file, have the conversation, let it draft it, review and iterate. The first version won't be perfect and that's okay. Just treat the soul file as version content that evolves with your preferences over time. It's not something you write once and just forget about. Now let's talk about what this actually costs, because the soul is loaded on every turn and the length of this file directly impacts your bill on every single interaction. At 30 lines, which is where you should be, soul is roughly 500 to 800 tokens. On Haiku at $1 per million input tokens, less than 1/10 of a cent per interaction, and on Sonnet at $3 per million, but 2/10 of a cent. It's negligible and you'll never notice it on your bill. At 200 lines, which I've seen people do, you're looking at 3,000 to 5,000 tokens per turn. If you send 50 messages a day, that's about 25 cents a day just for personality injection. And over a month, that adds up to $7 or $8 for a file that could be 30 lines. That's money that you're burning on words the agent just doesn't need. Now, there are hard limits too. The individual file cap is 20,000 characters, beyond which OpenClaw will truncate, and then that's configurable via OpenClaw, defaults, bootstrap, max chars. And the default bootstrap content cap across all files is 150,000 characters, configurable through agents, default, bootstrap, total max chars. The rule here is straightforward, under 30 lines, under 500 words, and every word earns its place or gets cut. You've written your soul file and now you need to actually verify that it works, because a personality that looks good on paper but doesn't change agent output is worse than useless because it's tokens for nothing. 3 tests here. First, you want to ask for a briefing or summary, something like summarize what we discussed yesterday, because this tests whether the tone and formatting match your vibe section and whether the output feels like your agent or just generic AI. Second, ask it for an opinion. So what do you think of this approach? Because this tests whether the agent has the confidence and directness that you specified in the core truths, whether it hedges with it depends or actually commits to a take. Third, you want to ask it to do something you explicitly told it not to do in your boundary section, because if it does it anyways without pushing back, your boundary isn't specific enough and it needs to be rewritten. If the tone feels wrong, reiterate it, edit the soul file, save it, test it again, and while you're iterating, watch for these common mistakes that do trip people up. Life stories. These don't belong, and your agent needs behavioral instructions, not your biography. Corporate language, which the doc calls corporate mush, or conflicting directives where be warm plus skip filler causes oscillation, or even operating rules that belong in agents instead of things like check calendar before scheduling, which are workflows, not personality, and also just never updating it. Your preferences change, your use cases evolve, so treat this as living content that grows with you. 4 things before day 8. First, rewrite your soul markdown file. So replace the default template with your own core truths, boundaries, vibe, and continuity. Keep it under 30 lines and make sure every line passes the test. Would my agent do something measurably different because of this line? Second, run 3 tests. So summary request, opinion question, boundary test, and do this through any channel. Verify that the tone actually matches what you wrote, and if it doesn't, then edit and retest because iteration is the work here. Third, try the multi-prompt. So open up web chat at localhost 18789. Tell your agent you want to rewrite the soul markdown file together, describe what you like, and then describe what annoys you, let it draft it, and then compare its version to yours, take the best parts of each. Fourth, you want to check your token impact. So go over to your dashboard at localhost 18789 and look at the token count for a typical interaction and see how much the context injection versus your actual message is, because this makes the cost of your soul markdown file tangible in a way that reading about it doesn't. Perfect. So your agent now has a voice, sounds the way you want it to sound, has the boundaries that you defined, and a communication style that's distinctly yours. Day 8 is the memory markdown file. It's how your agent decides what to remember and what to forget. The soul made it personal and the memory makes it smart. If you want hands-on help setting any of this up, I do consulting at alirajchangla.com. And if the series is helping you, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and I'll see you on day 8.